Hey, I'm Susanna Lanier, actor and acting coach for over 25 years.
I'm Jess Greenberg, casting director for over 10 years.
We're here to help you navigate this crazy, creative, and sometimes chaotic journey into the film and television world.
We share our insights as to what works.
And invite some pretty spectacular guests to share more ideas to move you on your journey.
So without further ado, let's get into the show.
Today, we have the privilege of speaking with BAFTA-nominated actor Alex Weiner, who also recently received the ACTRA Award for playing Rocket Racoon in the video game Guardians of the Galaxy. Welcome, Alex! Woo!
Woo! Thank you for having me. Hi, guys. Hi, Jess. Hi, Susanna. Such a pleasure being here.
Oh, we're so happy.
Thank you for being here. Amazing. So let's start from the beginning and tell us when you knew you wanted to be an actor.
Oh, man. Yeah. So I got into acting kind of offhand. I was doing a China exchange in high school and I was, 13. And to do the exchange, you had to raise money by doing Midsummer Night's Dream. So I started acting in high school and then all of a sudden it kind of took over me. And I ended up doing, 2 Shakespeare plays a year at Royal West Academy, which is a fantastic high school for the arts. I was doing musicals. And then Susanna actually saw me. Yeah, you saw me in Cabaret in grade 11. And that's about when I started taking classes with Susanna, who Susanna is really my first mentor, one of the most important mentors in my life for acting. I was about 16 at that point. And, I made the decision quite quickly and at a young age. At around 16, 17, I kind of told myself, I said, this is really what I want to do. And the kind of person I've always been 100% or nothing. So I very quickly said, I'm going to go all in on this. And I was lucky enough to get an agent at 17. And then I was lucky enough to book after that. So my first gig was a feature film. Very lucky to start with a leading role in a feature film, a film called Territories. And that was 35-day shoot. And that's how I got into the biz. Yeah.
Okay. That's intense. That's like a full training right away.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. And what was cool about that gig was my character couldn't speak. So my character was there the whole time. He was a mute, so he couldn't talk. So it was really an exercise in listening, right? I was there for 30 days just listening and reacting. So I didn't have to worry about dialogue, which was really, really interesting. And at the same time, how to communicate emotions without saying anything, right? So such an interesting exercise.
Such an interesting exercise. I saw that film and I saw you in Cabaret. And when I saw Alex in high school, he stood out. This guy's got it. This guy's an
appreciate
actor.
That.
It was, you had stage presence from, you were 15. I remember you were 15.
Right.
I was with Robin Baruchel and she said, check out this kid, he's 15. And I was like, wow.
Absolutely. And Robin was so helpful at that. She helped me. She connected me to you. She connected me to my first agent. She was unbelievable. I was 15 and I remember in Cabaret, I was like, I wanted to do this song, Two Ladies. It was the song. And I went out of my underwear. And the principal came up to me and was like, Alex, this is a high school play. You cannot go out in your underwear. So I go, okay. So you don't want me to wear a pair of underwear when I go out? She says, yeah, that's okay. We were agreed. So the next show, I just put on two pairs of underwear. And yeah, she realized very quickly at that point, I'm going to let this guy do whatever he wants because he's just
Alex was
doing
method actor from the beginning. I'm doing it. I'm going all in. I don't care. And that was the way you did it. And it worked out for you. It was amazing.
Sure,
yeah. And I also saw you in Territories. How old were you then?
I was 17 and I turned 18 on the shoot.
Fun in Quebec. That's a good thing.
That's right. Yeah. I went to go buy my first beer at the grocery store and I took it to set and I was like, well, look at me.
That was a very intense shoot.
Absolutely.
And he played a mute, but he was definitely one of the leads. And it was a horror film. It was very heavy. My heart went out to you guys. He also played with some heavy hitters. Michael Mando was in that.
Yeah.
Christina Rosado was in that. And he was just no experience playing a disabled character.
Yeah.
He was in it the whole time. The horror film, they were getting tortured and stuff. It was very intense. How was that experience for you growing up? Did it scar you? Because that was intense and you go all in.
Absolutely. Yeah. the movie is, we're these Americans who are visiting Canada for a wedding, and then we cross the border at this kind of off the grid border crossing where these two border patrolmen they're posing as border patrolmen, but they're actually psychopaths. And it was Roch Lafortune was one of them,
Yes.
and another just fantastic actor. I learned so much.
Sean
from that
Devine.
guy.
It was Roch Lafortune and Sean Devine.
That's
right?
it, exactly.
Amazing.
Just these really seasoned people. And yeah, we were in cages. My first close-up ever, my first like real moment, day one, they pull me out of the cage, they put me on the ground, and I was gonna get branded with a cattle iron. And here was something funny. I'm playing a mute, and I remember going like, okay, like, would I make a sound? And then we quickly discovered, okay, it would be sort of like a guttural sort of sound. But if you can imagine this, you're kind of an inexperienced actor, you're on your back, and it was kind of like crash course in close-up acting, where you're on your back, the boom's there, there's, the camera's right in your face, the actor's cheating, the cattle iron's coming here, you've got like 50 people around. I was 17, so I had to have my mom on set. My mom's just in the background going like freaking out.
Don't hurt my son.
Yeah, don't hurt my son. And I remember
God.
just like, it's kind of like how I always want to do it. I just said, all right, let's just freaking do it. Let's just dive in and go for it. Right. And I remember doing it, and we got it in 2 takes, and I was like, all right, that's what it's all about. It's all about just like, forget about what's in front of you, or accept what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And then just dive in. And I'm looking back, I'm so happy that was my first moment, because it's like, jumping off the cliff, right? And going skydiving, and you just jump, and you have to do it. And you learn a lot through that kind of process. Yeah. But to answer your question about scarring me, I have this weird thing where I guess I'm a pretty happy guy, but I'm very in touch with the darkness of I do like that. Susanna knows this as me as an actor. I like those moments. So I just see it as an exploration of the things that some people maybe aren't as comfortable to explore. That's our job as artists, is to expose those things so that the audiences can experience that safely, right, from the audience's perspective. So it didn't really, it doesn't scar me. I see that stuff as fun. And maybe we'll talk later when I experienced a bit of method acting when I did a movie called Clyde Cynic later. That's where I went a bit too there are moments where I went a bit too far in terms of being the character. I've learned how to pull myself back at this point. But when we're talking about dark material, I love that stuff. I always have.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost an escape for you if you're living in a different kind of escape.
Yeah, I think it is an escape. I mean, I think that's what performance is, right? And as actors, I do think there's this great book called The Path of the Actor, and it's written by a psychoanalyst who teaches at RADA. And actors, I believe, are like shamans, right? Back in the tribal times, you had the shamans. They would the community, the tribe would sit in front of the shaman, and they would act, right? People would shake the tent, people would create smoke, and they would get possessed by a spirit. But I think it's a communal growth therapeutic process, and it is an escape. And you need to do that as people, because our lives were taught to just kind of follow this rigid line. So I think that's why we like to go watch The Godfather. I think that's why we like to go watch American Psycho, because that's the only time where we can see what that's like and maybe understand an aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like you said, in a safe way,
Absolutely.
you can experience it in a safe way. And I think that's so important.
So you are an actor, you're all in, you get this amazing role in a feature, and what happens next? So you have your agent. I mean, acting is never a straight journey.
No,
so like,
no,
what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a big lesson for me. I did this gig, and there are these distinct memories I think we have in our lives, right? These moments where you learn something or you feel something a bit different. And I remember I had an audition with Mike Migliara and Bruno Rosado, my first audition after the gig, and it was another lead role in a horror. And I remember going like, I got this. Like, I just did a feature film as a horror, and I didn't get it. So it's like, oh, wait a second. Like, hold on. Nothing is certain. Just because I did this feature does not mean I'm going to book right away. Luckily enough, I was in CEGEP, and I was studying cinema, so I was learning script writing, and I was able to distract myself with that and have a separate sort of thing going on. And I think that's a super important thing for actors, is to realize that you're going to have downtime, and try to fill that downtime with something productive that's going to help you, or something like that. But Yeah, I had an agent, and my trajectory, I think, has been very lucky, because at the same time, I work really hard. I'm completely obsessive about my craft, and it's really the only thing I've ever wanted to do, and I love doing it. Doesn't mean that those periods of uncertainty don't come. It's just about accepting them. The doubt is ever present, and it's this ever present adversary that you have to duel with in your mind. But it never comes when you're shooting. It just comes in that downtime. But after that, I booked Blue Mountain State. So that was about a year later. And that was a fantastic experience on Spike TV, guest star, something that to this day, apart from Rocket Raccoon, is the thing I'm recognized for. Like, people will go like, Ricky the Pizza Boy on Blue Mountain State. And I'm like, funnily enough, people from Eastern Europe love that show. It's like, it's always a Russian guy or a Polish guy. It's just Ricky the Pizza Boy. I love this. Like on the street. And I'm like, oh, great. So that was the next thing for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so what point of your career did you feel, or did you know it was time to expand out of Montreal?
Sure. Yeah. I think that's such a good question. I've seen a lot of actors, me included, do it a bit too early. When I was 20, you get this sort of pressure from everybody's talking about, yeah, Montreal is great, but Toronto, Toronto is where you succeed. And I don't think that's true. I think you can really succeed anywhere, and people have unbelievable careers in Montreal. It just becomes it's about what's right for you. I decided to try to expand when I was 20, and I totally failed. I didn't even have an agent. I was still with Kim in Montreal, Kim Vancourt at the time. So she was trying to book me stuff over there. And then I kind of had like this crazy journey where I was still acting on gigs in Montreal, doing very well. But then I was going to LA, trying different things. I did a few indies, and I was just trying to figure myself out. And then when I turned 25, I got back from LA, and I realized that you can't expect to go to Toronto and expect that you're going to walk in there the actor you are in Montreal right away. You can't expect to go there and you're going to go to every casting room. You need to dig your feet in, and you're going to have to pay your dues, and you're going to have to spend probably a year or two getting these casting directors to know you and finding a good agent. So that's what I decided to do at 25. I did it though when I had a significant resume in Montreal, and I think that's so important. I think it's like you start in a smaller town, but we say smaller town. Montreal is like the third film center in Canada. It's not it's not a small town. It's still like a big film town, but if you're there and you're in a position where you can book and people know you, spend some time there, build that resume, get a couple of supportings, get a couple of principals on your resume. I was super lucky because I didn't have to start with actor roles. I had a lead role, so I had a precedence right away. But I only went to Toronto when I committed to it at 25, when I had the clout, I believe, to walk into an audition room and say, I know what I'm doing. You might not know who I am, but I have the resume, and I know I can pull this off. And from then on, it was a few years of blah, 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 few agents, some good agents, but now I'm with a fantastic agent. I'm with OAZ, and I haven't looked back, and I feel like right now I'm in the position in Toronto that I was in Montreal, but it took work for sure.
Oh my, yeah. Well, that's almost 7 years if I'm doing math right. Like going to LA, being humbled again, coming to Toronto, humbled. So it's a journey.
It's a journey, absolutely, and we can't be too hard on ourselves. I think as artists, like acting it's such a difficult art form in the sense that your product is you. When I would actually say that musicians have it harder in general. The industry for a musician is like brutal in order to make a living, I would say. But let's look at a painter, right? Like a painter will put themselves on the canvas, right? And that product will get judged. But as an actor, you're the one getting judged. Your canvas is yourself. So we have to remember, I think, that it is a journey, as you say, Jess. I think that's so important. Every failure is an opportunity to learn and to grow and to use that failure later on. And as long as you keep going, you will end up succeeding. I do believe that, the way to hit gold is to dig, right? Just keep digging.
Mhm.
Keep digging. I did want to ask, because you said about going into the audition room in Toronto and stuff.
Mm.
I remember when you were young, you came into the audition room, and I was a reader at Elite, and you were so confident. Like,
Mhm.
it was so great to see. He was, I don't know, 19, and he shook everybody's hand, and he was ready to work, like professional. But it was beautiful. I was like, damn. And you were my student at the time. I was like, I wish I taped his entrance to the room to go, this is what you do. This is how you take your space. It's your time. Take the space. So I felt you had that at 18 or 19. How did you have that energy at such a young age?
Yeah, I think it's such an important thing. This podcast is called Book the Room, right?
Yes.
I think
Oh,
I
you
think
booked
that
it.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I don't
I
remember if you
appreciate.
booked the part, but you booked that room. I was like,
Well, that's the thing.
damn.
If you book the room and you don't book the part, at least you left an impression, I think, And
Yeah.
I'm very lucky. Like I've always been a confident person. I had great parents who taught me certain things and who made sure I was able to recognize the things I was good at. But like it was always a very natural thing to me. I was also young, I think there's a lot of luck in starting young.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to worry about, let's say, rent. You don't have to worry about job prospects per se. So I think it's such an important thing is to keep that youth where you go in and you got nothing to lose and it's all good. But yeah, I think I had that because it was a part of me, and I never thought that I would do anything wrong if I came into a room and I was just myself.
Right.
And I've learned as I've gotten older too, to approach the audition as a professional, right? I think
And
that's
you
important.
did. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
think
did at a young age. Like now, yes, but at 19, I remember Alex is going somewhere, and you did, and you did. But
thankfully.
the attitude, I took it as Alex loves working. He's unapologetic. He's here to share his craft, did the work. He's coming in to share it. He's happy to be here. He's going to look you in the eye and go, here I am. I got something to show you, but with the confidence. And it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's so important. I want to share one audition. I think there's another way to book the room. And it kind of goes in a sense of being yourself, where I had this audition for the Siegel Center. And I remember going in there and it was a callback for a play. And I ended up booking it, but I had to turn it down for another gig, unfortunately. It was a great play. Fantastic. But I remember going in, I started the scene, and I just felt, no, that's not good. Like, I don't feel good. And I stopped it. I said, after a few sentences, I just said, hold on a second, guys. And I looked at them and I said, I'm feeling a bit nervous. And they all laughed and they said, oh, that's okay. And I kind of laughed and I said, listen, I'm just going to turn around for a second. Let me just breathe. And I think that's a really important thing where I wouldn't put the pressure on myself to go in and nail it. Right. I think I want to go in, be honest, and do what I need to do the work. And the rapport that was built in that 3 seconds where I was honest and I said, I'm nervous. They laughed. I laughed. Then I did it. I nailed the scene. Yeah. One thing I love to do every audition I go into now is I walk in. I say, I'm not ready yet. I always like, if they're going to go in Toronto, they'll just go. And I'm like, just give me a second. That's one way to control the room right there. Just give me a second. Thank you. I take a breath. Now I'm ready, and just that simple simple can do so much in showing them that you are going to do what you need to do as a professional to get what needs to be done. Is that a sentence?
Yes.
And do what you need to do to do justice to the work.
I like to hear that, because I found in my sessions, I like to try and make the actors as comfortable as possible, to have an environment as welcoming and as possible. And then I hear stories of casting directors who it's all about their time and what's next, and it's rush. And it's like, will that get the best performance? I don't know. So Absolutely. You still have to respect, conscious of time, because at the end of the day, it is money. The producers are paying for the room and all that stuff, but it's, and like you say, it's a second. I need a second.
And as long as you're prepared, it's okay. It's one thing if you're not prepared, if you didn't work on it and you're coming in and you're taking up time. But if if you've prepared, you've done the work and you're doing just that little thing you need to do to get on that right path, that right wavelength. I think that's absolutely fine. And your audition rooms, Jess, were always super welcoming. I really have always appreciated that. It's such an unnatural process for an actor, I would say, if you think about it objectively, compared to every other interview process. The artist has to really, you're in a room, you've got other people around you, people look like you, they don't look like you, there's the mind games, and then you're brought into a room, there's people you never met before, no names exchanged sometimes, and then you got to like deliver magic. Right?
Yeah.
It's an unnatural process. So the casting directors who take that little second to help that process smooth it out a little bit. But another thing is I'm lucky about is that I've loved auditioning, and I always do love auditioning. Some people don't like it, and I hope I never lose that.
Well, it seems like you're a people person. So for you, it's like any opportunity to meet and make those connections is a good opportunity.
Absolutely.
Go in being yourself. Like, it's just another fun thing.
Absolutely. Even if the role's not good for you, you might not book it,
Yeah.
but you left a good impression. I think that's important.
So Alex, after you've done your own, because you have been a producer and a director also, you've done your own projects. Has your approach to auditioning changed since you've done that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think has my approach to auditioning changed by being a producer? It certainly has. It's given me more awareness into what it's just like to be on that other side of the table. The biggest thing that I learned, and it's more something that I was told, but I solidified by being a producer, is that the producer and the casting director wants you to succeed.
Right.
They want you to nail it. And they're willing to give you another take. They're willing to work with you to get it. They don't want you to fail. So I remember casting Fugazi and I was the creator, I was one of the producers, I was the lead on it too, but I remember sitting
the
there.
Writer.
And the writer, with Jesse Camacho, my
Yeah.
writing partner to this day. And I remember, it might be because I'm an actor, but I remember every actor who came in, I was like, I just really want you to do your best work. One guy who booked it, Mike D'Amico, who booked Rocco in our thing.
Yes, perfect casting. Perfect.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of him before, but he was similar to my story. He came in for the callback and he was like, this big guy, and he's like, I'm feeling really nervous. And I remember being like, oh dude, I love you. Like, don't be nervous. Like, take a second. You're gonna do great, and I saw both sides, so it definitely did help. And I encourage all actors to write if they can, or work with someone who writes and produce their own thing. We have iPhones right now. I know everybody says it, but it's true. Like, you can shoot something and just so you can see what it's like to be on the other side, or go shadow a director on set. That's another amazing thing to do.
And like, what I love what you're saying is you can say, I'm sorry, can I take that again? Or I need a minute, like, just give me a second. You be honest that, yes, I love the book the room, come in, shake everybody's hand, look in the eye. But if that's not you, find your way of being honest in the moment, because that's what it's basically, being present. People are attracted to that.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. And I love that you just said that, where like, you don't have to be that outgoing person if that's not you. And, going back to Fugazi, when we had an actress come in and she was so quiet, she was like shy, but when she acted, she was amazing and she booked it,
right.
That's just her, and what I saw as a producer there, I was just like, okay, this is someone who is a bit reserved, but they did the work. They did the work, and they're nice, and I'd love to work with them. I don't need you to be on set like being a show person. I just need you to come in and do the work and be reasonable to work with. So that's so true.
But there is something about confidence, because is what I sort of tell the students, is that you have to understand on set, there's so many moving pieces. And so you do want to bring in a certain amount of confidence so they can feel confident that you can handle it on set. But you find your own way, right? It's like you find your own voice. Everybody has a different style. So I think that's what you're saying. And if this actress was shy, she still was present. And you still trusted her. She's still
present. Yeah, she's confident in her work, I believe.
Right.
And I think that's amazing. And then her demeanor is something else.
So the other thing we want to talk about is Guardians of the Galaxy. Shit, this is huge. I mean, how's that journey been? Walk us through that.
So yeah, absolutely. the most exciting job of my career by far. And how that happened is I got an audition through Andrea Kenyon. This was through Eidos Montreal was casting through Andrea Kenyon. They wanted actors who had experience in video game, which I had, but also who had some film experience.
Okay.
You know, so we got this audition. It was a self-tape, and they coded all the words, all the names of the characters. So you had to do a little bit of sleuthing if you wanted to actually find out what this thing was. My, Rocket was called Calvin Glow. Groot was called Quiet Joe, so, and then Groot's line was what gave it away. Groot's line was celery is good. Celery is good. So I'm like, okay, this is probably Guardians. So there was an interesting predicament right off the top with this audition. It was like, okay, do they want a copy of the movies, or do they want you to bring a part of yourself into this? So luckily enough, I decided to kind of split the difference. I did a self-tape. Felt really good about it. And that was it. I booked it. We were brought in from the self-tape, one tape.
No callbacks, nothing.
No callback.
Wow.
Did they do just voice for the first self-tape, or you were on camera too?
We were on camera. So it was a traditional self-tape, because this was full performance capture.
Yeah.
So video games, sometimes they'll do just voiceover and they'll digitalize the characters, in the editing room, blah, blah, blah. But for this, they were doing full performance capture, where you're going to be in a mocap suit. You're going to have sensors all over your body. You have a helmet with a camera that's right in front of your face. So they're catching your facial expressions as well, and your voice at the same time. So we call that full performance capture, and people would know that as Gollum from Lord of the Rings, for example. That was full performance capture, probably one of the pioneering performances of that. But yeah, we booked it off of self-tape. Some people had callbacks. I didn't, but I had worked with Eidos before on Deus Ex, for example, a few other games. What was scary about that was you go in and you're working with a pretty big beast called Marvel, and Marvel has a lot of say in what you do. And the way it works is they brought us in for a week-long shoot, which they would call a test shoot, a slice. And we had the actors there and we were doing it. We knew what it was, but no one came up to us and said, you got the role. Like, no one shook our hands and said, congratulations. So there's this lingering feeling that you're still in the audition process. And I have a feeling this is something that I'll run into more and more as I climb this ladder. But we did this week-long shoot, and then we didn't hear anything for about 8 months. Nothing, not a peep. Like, it's crazy.
8 months?
Like, 8 months. Like, we're just sitting there. I'm like texting my agent. I'm like, hey, like, is this thing going? They're like, I don't know. Like, I messaged them. They're like ghosting us. And I'm like, okay, great. So either I got recast or this isn't happening. And then we get the call 8 months later. It's like, great, you guys are in for another test shoot. So then you go in again.
God.
One of the actors got replaced. So that was already really scary. I won't say who, but it's like,
like the Hunger Games.
Right. It's not their fault. It's just, they're figuring out the cast for this studios. Like mess. The studios, and every time you do a shoot, they're talking with Marvel's approving, and then we did
Marvel
another
has so much money that they can keep doing test run after test run.
That's right.
Obviously want to get it made, but that's when you're dealing with a big network.
Oh my God.
There's so many people at the head. There's not one person saying, that's my guy, let's move it. They all want to make their voice heard.
Absolutely. And luckily enough, at one point, this was a 4-year project really that I was working on, tons of dialogue, so we were just coming in all the time. But at one point, like year 2, it was like, okay, we're fully greenlit. You guys are the Guardians. Don't worry.
Yeah. 2 years before they said we'll stick with them. 2 years.
I know it's crazy. And you're in terms of me as an actor, like you're wrestling with some stuff where I didn't want to do a copy of Bradley Cooper, so my Rocket has an essence of it, but I did something very, very different. We all did something different. And that was something Eidos said right away. It was like, we want to do a different universe. We don't want to copy the cinematic universe. So that was lucky, and we were able to bring our own life to the characters. And, hands down, one of the best projects I've ever worked with. these actors are my family. It's John McLaren, Kimberly Sue Murray, Robert Mulcahy, Jason Cavalier. Jason, myself, and John were nominated for BAFTAs. All of us have been nominated for ACTRA awards, either in Toronto or Montreal. So it's just been like an amazing thing. And for me, it's opened the door to a great video game career, which is really something that I'm super happy.
I have a random question, but over those like 2 years, were you under NDA? Like you couldn't even tell people that you were, because I've worked on video games and like, yeah, the scripts agent would be like, what game is this? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Everything is password protected. I couldn't tell you. So were you able to say anything, or it was under wraps for 2 years?
Full NDA for all those years. I may have told my wife, who wasn't my wife back then, but
I think there's a law. I think there's a law that with spouses you're allowed.
That's right. There is a law somewhere out there. Let's hope Eidos isn't listening to this. But the games were released for a year and a half, so who cares? I did do one thing once because like in the middle of this shoot, it was Infinity War came out, and I was in the middle of this shoot. And I was like, I'm going to go watch Infinity War. And then at the end, Rocket didn't disappear. So I in the audience, everybody was like quiet, because it was like the most tragic ending. And I just look at everybody and go, still alive, Flarkers. And no one got what I was talking about, but like only I got what I was talking about. I'm like, I'm still around, it was like my little moment to break my NDA, but not break my name.
Yeah, because if you know, you know, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's fun.
Absolutely. It is hard. I mean, you want to tell everybody, your agent knows, my agent signed an NDA, so I could talk with my agent about it. I have a great agent, Nick Sates, who handled that whole project at OAZ, and Jason Thomas. Yeah, like you could talk with them about it. You talk with your crew, you talk with your castmates, and then you're just waiting for that release where you can. Was
it a lot of pressure then? Did it put you in your head, or were you able to really just say, I'm just doing this?
I didn't let it go to my head. I try never to, if I can. Try not to think about it. But but yes, it was a tremendous amount of pressure. You're dealing with a universally recognized household character name.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I just can't even imagine it. That's why I'm asking you, how did you maintain, like, and be able to do the work? You know what I mean? Like without, because I think for me personally, if we always say go into the big auditions like you're auditioning for a student film, because that's where you do your best work. But now you're in it. You're in it, and every week you might get fired because they could replace you. Like, so how
Bradley
do you
Cooper's
do
in your dressing room.
I mean, how do you not get up in your head and just do the work? You did it. So what was the secret? What was your secret?
Honestly, the secret is preparation, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, the secret is do enough work, do so much work on the character that the character personally.
Right.
It becomes your character. You own the character, or you have a relationship with the character. And I did so much work on Rocket that I know everything about Rocket, like, per the lore. Like I know how he feels about everything, because it's part of my method background a little bit. I wouldn't call myself a method actor per se, but I do like to live the life of the character. I do like to feel the character and think like the character. So at one point you are the character, and once you have that ownership and that relationship, then that stuff becomes easier. There's this moment where a game comes out and it's this thing, and you're just waiting for the reviews. You're waiting to see what the fans are going to say, because it can go either way. They could go like, you're up against the MCU. You're up against the film actors, right? You're right away. There's that.
Yeah.
So they're either going to go like, these guys suck. Like it's like a ripoff of the movies, or they're going to go, this is so different. Like, why are they doing something not like the movies? So, Eidos nailed it, because we struck this amazing middle ground where it was a different vibe, a different universe, but there was still the essence of the Guardians, which are really just an impractical family who don't get along, but who really love each other. Right.
Right.
Yeah. But it's scary. It's scary when it comes out.
Yeah.
Wow. And what has your life changed since it's come out?
Yes, it certainly has. I try to view my career as a business, and you get better at your work You know, if you're a carpenter, you're going to make chairs, and then you're going to make tables, and then suddenly you're going to do the interiors of houses, you know? So, you know, I try to liken it to that, where I've done this now. I've done this video game. I got nominated for some great things, and I'm like,
Yeah.
great. This is now I know where I'm at, and now I know where I need to go. And it's just the next step. My life has changed also, thankfully, in a way where I have a bit more of a fan base. You know, I'm interacting with some people who like Marvel. I've been doing a bit more streaming, which I do enjoy. I'm a gamer, but I don't let that stuff distract me from the ultimate goal, which is world domination. No kidding. Which is
Oh, good. You're on your way.
Right, which is acting, which is I want to. From the beginning of my career, I always told myself this: I want to be a successful actor, and the way I define that is two ways. I want to live off my acting, and I want to work on things I want to work on. So I'm able to live off of it now, and I'm getting closer to being able to be more choosy with the things I work on, and I'm just going to keep going forward. And you know, when you do something like Guardians now, you can be a bit more choosy with the games you play. And you know, I'm on something now which I can't talk about, that is even more, right? And I'm so lucky to be there, but it's only because I did Guardians that I was able to be considered for something like that. And I'm working on that like next week, right? So it's like, and for the foreseeable future. So I'm just very thankful and very fortunate. You know, and if you just keep going, and you will do better, and you will get bigger roles, and then you will keep climbing. You just have to keep going and treat it like a business, get bigger products, get bigger opportunities, and use the things you've done before to help you get those opportunities, right?
In
Wow.
terms
And-
of like networking but also experience you're talking.
You know, experience is huge, because you can get the perfect pitch, but if you can't swing the bat, you know, like you need to be able to hit a home run. So people talk about luck, right? And I'm like, well, luck is really just, you know, experience meets opportunity. But I love that you bring up networking, because absolutely, that's a huge part of it. You know, getting nominated.
Just to say, sorry to cut you off, but a few times you said that you're very lucky.
That's right.
Which I am. I thought was interesting, because I was like, but you're also a really hard worker, and so that I find it interesting that that you
it's
bring
such
it
a
up
good
in
point.
that way.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, because I am lucky. Luck exists, I do think. I just what I failed to say before is that you need to be able to prove it. You know, like Territories was like super lucky. Like what actor gets that on their first freaking gig? It's like, it's so unheard of. And luckily enough, I had done the work before with Susanna, and you know, done that work where I was able to do it. I think it's a great point though, Jess. I agree. And it's this mystified thing, right? But the networking is crazy, because you do the game, and then suddenly you have this kind of calling card, and then you go to the BAFTAs, right? And then like, this is the BAFTA Video Game Awards, which is adjacent to the BAFTAs. You know, and they've been doing that for like 28 years, which is amazing. But you go in this room, and then suddenly you see like Maggie Robertson, you see, you know, Han Soto, you see all these big video game actors, and you can go up to them and say, hey, like, I played Rocket. Nice to meet you. You know, or like, I'd like to meet you. And then there's right away that rapport that's opened up. So through just going to the BAFTAs, I've made so many connections with video game producers. And I think that's another thing, is like, when you have that resume, you're able to go to these events with a purpose, and with a bit of a retinue behind you, right? Where you can have something to talk about, you know, and all that stuff. So networking's super important. But I would just suggest to, you know, there's the fake it till you make it, but like, when you do have those moments where you have something to talk about, that's the perfect time to network, because you have, you know, you can exchange information with people that are like you.
Right. So to recognize when the opportunity when you're in it, and don't be shy, that's your time to network. You
know, it takes a certain amount of decisiveness, I think, to make these moves, because there are moves that you can
They're
make.
moves. That's a business. This is a great business.
Yeah.
This is the business side of it. When you're momentum, then utilizing it, using it, and pressing forward, because that's
100%.
hard. There's a timing thing.
There's a timing, and like, it's on you. It's not on your agent. It's on you. You're the sole proprietor of your acting business. So, you know, here's a move I made after the BAFTAs. I collected business cards from certain gaming companies. They knew who I was. They saw my face on the screen, so I had the collected the business cards. I then brought them to my agent in Toronto, and I said, here's a list of things. I have rapport. I have an in. Can we send emails to them just saying, hey, I'm Alex's rep. He mentioned, and he CC'd me in the email. Just want you to know that, we'd be open to talking down the line if you have any other games coming out. That would never happen if I wouldn't have gotten the business cards, made those relationships, went to my agent, did that.
Yeah.
Another move we did was we reached out to, it was the perfect time to start reaching out to US rep. And I'm still not in the place I'd say where I can tackle it per se, but we did have a great conversation with just a few agencies with my agent. And I didn't, he was like, I love my agent, but my agent was like, I don't know if you're ready. And I'm like, you know what? I'll send the email anyway. So I did it myself.
Right.
And then they were interested. So then I'm like, hey, you want to talk to them? And he's like, oh God, okay, yes, I'll talk to them. And then, and then it ended up where I wanted it to get to, which is we opened a door. And there's one particular great agency in the US that was like, they said, this is great. When Alex gets his next video game credit, give us a call because we'd like to continue this discussion. I have that credit now. I'm working on it now. So now there's a plan in the next 2 years to reopen that door, and we have a conversation already established. And there are these moves that you can make, and I would also caution people to, be yourself always, don't try to force anything. It's about looking for the opportunities where things are genuine, correct, are worth it. And you're not going to put anybody else in a weird position because, sneaking into a TIFF party and trying to give business cards to producers, I don't know how well that's going to work for you. But,
Totally.
When your indie film is out and maybe you had a great audition with a casting director in Toronto, sending a nice letter and saying, hey, I can get you a ticket if you want, and I'd love for you to come by. And if no worries, if not, that's a great move to make, because maybe they'll come and maybe they'll see it. And then next thing you know, even if they don't have gigs for you or auditions for you, you've established rapport with a person. And that's really all we are. We're just people trying to work together. Right. So.
Like an invitation as opposed to I'm going to shove myself down your throat. It's an invitation like, hey, I'm just inviting you to know me, and that's
Absolutely.
it. And in a nice way.
No
It's
apologies.
genuine.
You're a professional. You do good work. There's no reason you can't reach out to people. Don't apologize for who you are and for what you've done. Right.
So Alex, we are slowly going to be wrapping up, but there's a couple of questions we still have. First of all, you're sort of alluding to it, but you can't talk about it because of the NDA. But what's next? What's next for Alex?
What's next? Oh, well, there's a great video game that I'm working on. That I'm super, super, super excited about. And in about 2 years, you may see me as a interesting villain, and another character is also very interesting. So I'm getting to spread my wings, and I'm super, super pumped for that thing. And also, Jesse and I, we are writing a few things, so we have a few things on the docket right now.
That's what I wanted to know. Are you and Jesse still working on stuff? Because I think you guys are a great team. Jesse Camacho, everybody, who is a wonderful writer and actor, and Alex's writing partner. And they did Fugazi, which was a fabulous pilot. And hopefully there's more coming.
Yeah, we have we have thing that's out there, and that is seeing some fruit. It's too early to tell, but it's quite far along. It's something called Oscar's Oscar, and it's about a struggling actor who gets his dog into show business, but then gets jealous when the dog becomes a celebrity. So
that's amazing. What a great position. And you have this gig that's able to pay the bills and build a fan base, and you love doing it. And you get to work on your own personal project where you're still working on your writing and your acting and working on characters. I mean, right now you're living the dream, Alex. You are living the dream.
There's a lot of hard moments in between. Those don't go away, but they just make you a bit stronger. But as we've said, as I've said so many times in this podcast, I'm in a very lucky position.
You're
for sure.
so lucky.
Yes. No, and that lucky, you are so, Alex, since I've known you, you're ambitious, talented, very kind and generous to all your peers. And that is why you've been lucky. It's not just because, here's this jerk with no talent. He's so lucky. That has never been even close. You're the full package.
I really appreciate that, especially
you
coming from
really
you.
are, and I've always thought that from you. So it doesn't surprise me that you're doing well, and I feel in my heart you're just going to continue. You're just getting started. You're just getting started. start
I
training
appreciate
that
that.
dog because because that show's happening.
If you get any
totally
good
believe
dogs
it.
on your podcast, let me know.
I will.
We're
I,
looking.
Okay. I used to
will.
cast dogs sometimes.
Really?
Well, it
We
was,
got to
Jess
talk, Jess.
casted
We got to talk.
everything.
I know some, when you did have those like harder times calling your mom, wanting to, throw in the towel, what did keep you going?
The only thing that'll keep you going is yourself, I'd say.
Yeah.
And it's a conscious decision to you either keep going or you give up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I do know is those moments of doubt don't come when I'm working. I've never had a moment of doubt when I'm on set. On set, I feel like I'm in the place I'm meant to be, which just reinforces the fact that I have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll find is if you keep going and you keep working your craft, you will get an opportunity. It will come. And you have to believe that. That's the other really important thing. I think you have to have faith in yourself that you have what it takes and those opportunities will come. So make the decision. Just make the decision to keep going. And there is something you can control, which is your skill.
Mm-hmm.
Your skill is through practice, through other actors, through acting teachers, through reading for casting directors. There are things that you can do. Look for those things that you can control and harness them, right?
This has been amazing, delightful, and totally informative. So we're just so happy to have had you. Thank you so much.
It's
Thank
my
you.
absolute pleasure, Jess and
you.
Susanna. Thank you for having me.
So for today's takeaways, in stressful times, do the preparation and lean in on the work. Find your own organic way to network and build rapport. Your canvas is yourself. Be nice to everyone and breathe. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.